Well, it's a snowy day here, and I had planned on going out doing some things, but I decided to wait. Don't really want to drive in the snow. I don't really want to, go through all that hassle. So I decided I'll come out here and do probably a shorter video that I did the other day, because that turned out to be 56 minutes, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had done a video that long, because it didn't seem like the time was going like that. And actually, I wondered if it actually would go up on YouTube, because I think I heard somewhere that they do have a time limit, and they would accept videos certain length and all that. So it did go up amazingly. So anyway, I hope it was enjoyable and so on. It was very long. I didn't realize it was so long. However, I'm going to try and keep this one shorter than that one for sure. Well, it's St. Patrick's Day soon, so I decided I would go a little green today, and I have a couple of things here that are green, and on my little stand here, I'm wearing the green, some green, forest green. I do like forest green as a color. I'm not crazy about the lime greens and those kind of greens, but I do like forest green. It's it's more rich or something. It's kind of a fall color, and a spring color too, but mostly in fall. Anyway, what was I going to say? I would have liked to put some green plants there, but I don't have any real plants. I used to grow a lot of plants. And I had a lot of beautiful artificial green plants in nice containers and that, and I don't know, I got rid of them. I don't have them anymore. I just, there was a period there when they didn't seem to be in fashion, so I don't know what happened to them. But anyway, I wish I had them back, because they were beautiful. They were beautiful green foliage, and I actually looked into department stores to try and find some, and believe me, there's not much around, and the green thick foliage, and I'm in the mood for those now. I can't seem to find any, so what's there is just left over from Christmas, this one, and these are just a couple of few bits of pottery and that I had. I think that's Blue Mountain pottery, actually. So anyway, I did the best I could with a bit. Well, I have a bit of green anyway, so I'm wearing some green, and I have a little bit of green there. So normally I would put on some costumes and hats and all that. So I wasn't quite in the mood for that today. So. But I did want to come on and say a few things. St. Patrick's Day, traditionally, it's always been a day of, storytelling and nice foods like Irish stew and toutons and homemade rolls and things like that. Colin cannon, which we certainly had when we were growing up. My mother used to make that, and it's a traditional Irish dish, and believe me, it was delicious too. I haven't made it myself. I may have made it years ago, but I haven't made it in recent years for sure. So, being of Irish, a lot of Irish in me, as there are in many Newfoundlanders, of course. Newfoundland is pretty well half made up of Irish heritage here. So we had all those traditions, and we still have, and of course, with all those traditions come stories, and that's why I want to talk a little bit more about my ghost books. I'm going to just go over a few titles here. Not sure if I talked about some of the titles in these books. I did talk about these books before, but this one, of course, is the second collection to this one, which is can't keep it around. It's selling so well. This one is selling too. Selling well, but for some reason people still think that this one is another edition of that one. they're all new stories. So, just going to go through a few titles here. You know, like, or maybe well, the little girl on the train. That was a true story about the tsunami in Bjorn back in the 1920s. And a little girl was on this train, and she was believed to be a spirit of a child who was in trouble or had died during that terrible event. Little girl on train. So that was a true story. And some more. I think I talked about some of these. Time Travel Ghost, Exception Bay Fume. I think I talked about that one. And the fairy stories. Also modern day. There are a lot of modern day. Mostly what's in this is modern day stories. The Guardian Angel of Snowmageddon. Now, to anybody in Newfoundland probably wouldn't know what Snowmageddon was, but it was the biggest storm of the century here, so it happened in 2020. And Stranger at the Airport. That's a really, really spooky story. About a young guy going away, and his first time away from home. He was going to the States. And he got talking to this guy next to him. They're around the same age, only teenagers. And as soon as ever, of course, the other guy's flight was called, and he went on the plane, so the first guy, sometime after, got on his plane to go to his destination. And when he got to his destination in the US, he was told that this flight that his new friend had been on had crashed. So it traumatized him so much that he didn't fly for 30. He didn't fly at all the rest of his life. So that's how much it traumatized him. To know that someone he had just met at the airport and talked to maybe for about a half hour was killed in this horrific plane crash. But however, 30 years after that, well, that this new friend that he had met and was killed decides to make an appearance. So this is something else, that story, Stranger at the Airport. Hannigan Ghost, I talked about that one. And there's a ghost of a runner here too, in Exception Bay South. This man was a runner and very devoted to it, and one morning he went out and he encountered this other person that kept following him. And, it's a strange event there where he kept following him, and this guy Gary, who was the runner, the first guy, it was a really weird experience. So he's certainly sure that this runner that was following him saved his life, because other incidents happened at the time that he connected to the fact that he had been in terrible danger. And anyway, I have to read the story. Of course, I talked about the resettlement ghost of Donna Vista, and then there's a kind of, I guess you'd call it kind of a light-hearted story, but it's still spooky though. The basement apartment smoking ghost. This is a true story that was told to me as well. This guy, he smoked, he was a heavy smoker, and he wanted to give it up, and he quit anyway. And they moved into a new apartment. Yeah, he moved into a new apartment, and he started getting these smells of smoke. Really, strong smells, and it turns out to be, kind of. It's funny in parts, but it's still pretty spooky. So, there's another person that had been living in that apartment, etc., and but it got to the point where anyway he was so bothered by all this activity, and all this smoke he was smelling, because he had already quit, and he had been spraying all kinds of sprays around and everything, and and he kept getting this really strong smell of smoke. So, but anyway, between the jigs and the reels, he ended up moving and buying a house. So it's just one of these kind of lighthearted ghost stories. You know, not the real horror or anything like that. It's still spooky, but it's not. The thing about the books that I've done, with the exception of the famous, called famous, because I don't know how I wrote this. Hannigan's Hand. This is the second edition here. Hannigan's Hand, The Ghost Woman Talks. That is a horror story. That turned out to be a horror story. It's amazing because it was written from a story I heard when I was maybe 10, 12 years old, I guess. And it was written from a memory of that story, and it was a true story because the person it happened to used to come to, he was a friend of the family. So how I wrote this, I still can't believe I wrote it, to tell you the truth. I reread it from time to time, or parts of it, and wow, I said to myself, what happened to me here? How did I ever write that? That is reviewed on Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble had all these banners done up and everything advertising it, because and it was the same banners, you know, with James Patterson and people like that. It's quite the horror story, that's for sure. So that's just doing really well, and it has done really well. But apart from that, of course, the first edition is Hannigan's Hand. There's 2 editions. The second edition has the expanded edition of the lady with the Ouija board. That's in this edition. So anyway, the apart from these stories, these novels, my ghost story books are not what you call horror. I guess you could in a certain way. There's some of them are pretty, you know, pretty spooky, and they would really scare you. They would all scare you and make you afraid to be alone, really. But not to the extent of that one. That one's a real horror story. So, although I've been told that these are horror, and they're listed as horror in some of the distribution online and everything, they're labeled as horror, you know. So, but the thing is, there's real true horror is blood curdling and blood and violence and all this, which I don't. No, thank you. I can get by without writing that kind of stuff. So I don't think you'll find that kind of violence in my stories. I think you should be able to entertain in ghost lore without all that. So that's what the books have been praised for as well. The fact that the stories are strong storytelling without this blood and guts horror to them. Of course, they're all true. They were told to me, and they're all true stories. So anyway, to get back to those, and this is another kind of light-hearted story too. I Hear You Knocking. This salesman used to go around in the 1970s. He was from another province, and he travelled all Atlantic provinces, and he was pretty well selling everything, and he'd stay in hotels and everything on the way. And anyway, he kept hearing these knocks after a while, and he couldn't figure out where that was coming from. So he was a band player, is what he was. No, he wasn't a band player. He was a salesman. That's the other guy. He was a band player. So anyway, it's about a band player, the ghost of a band player, and the interaction he had with his salesperson. So that's kind of lighthearted and you know, kind of got a twist to it. It has a twist to it, but it kind of is an antidote to some of there are really strong stories in here, you know. So, and of course there was the one about Grandma and the house and everything. They sold her house too soon after she died, and there was repercussions from that. And there was the burnt wood spirit of the Avalon Mall. That's a craft fair, a spirit at a craft fair who was looking for a certain treasure, a certain heirloom from his childhood. So that's what that's about. And let's see, it's a lot of stories here. So I just wanted to kind of just run through, you know, the fact that it's St. Patrick's Day, and it's a good time to talk about ghost stories if you have visitors and so on. It's a traditional thing in my family, actually. We don't do it as often now as we used to, but we would always get together, and whenever there would be a get together, guaranteed there would be ghost stories, because that was our tradition. We grew up with it, and you know, we were kind of trying to outdo the other in our siblings and family, that friends outdo the other in, can you remember that one? Do you remember that one? And then of course somebody would have an even better one, and go on and on. So it was great fun. Sizzling seances, this Ouija boards and so on. So this book, like I said, much different stories than what's in this one. These are all new stories. And what I'm going to do too, like I said, I'm going to keep this short today. And I'm also going to read one poem from my new collection as a treat. One poem. I did read a few weeks ago, but I'm going to read one poem from my new collection of poetry. And of course, these books are around, my novels. It's the same novel, it's just 2 editions. The Seashell's Lament, a true story of love and heartbreak and all that in our beautiful province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So that won a Canada Book Award, along with the other 3 that I won. So anyway, I will. Of course, you heard me talk about this one many times. This book is, it's even if I don't talk about it very much or anything else, so you know, it always sells. So it's a favorite for sure. You know, this was the first collection of true ghost stories that I collected and put into book form. People are saying to me, you know, when is your next ghost story collection coming out? And you know, I have a few ideas and a few new stories actually. It is a genre that's very, very popular, no doubt about it. It's a very lucrative field, and I certainly found it so. You know, I was really surprised actually that it is that lucrative. It's very popular and very lucrative. And something else I'm working on too is my memoir. So I have that in the first. This part of it is in the first draft right now, but there are people that are kind of interested in that too. So a publisher for one thing. So there's something that's in the works. You know, it might take a while now, but I actually have some things jotted down and some bit of an outline, things like that, and some memories, you know, that I want to get it down there just in case that you know, whatever I remember. I remember a lot too, believe me. So that could be in a couple of years. You might, well, hopefully, then again, it might take a couple of years, yeah, for sure. So anyways, I'm going to do a poem from this collection that's new and only came out Christmas. And in actual fact, there's going to be a launch of this. Believe you me, this has not been forgotten about by any means. I'm very proud of this work. So there will be a launch in either St. John's or Mount Pearl in Newfoundland, of course. There's some venue. I'm not sure where it's all going to happen yet, but it will be certainly all. You know, you will know about it for sure. There'll certainly be enough promotion on it. So, and you know, I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't really done what you call a real big time as regard to a real big live time with a lot of people and so on, with launches in a while, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a bit of organising and all that, but it'll be a fine time, and you'll be able to pick up this book, and pretty well all my titles will be available at the same time. So don't worry, we'll all be well put out there, all the details. Anyway, I'm going to finish by, I told you it won't be very long, so I'm probably going to the other extreme now and making it too short, but well, you know. Okay, so this is a poem called All That Remains. All That Remains. At the top of the stairs there was Saint Cecilia playing the piano, and next to her, in ornamental frame, armed clumps of military with criss-cross bullet vests across their chests and long Lee rifles with daggers sticking out from the Boer War. They kept each other company in ironic incongruity. Down below, in the dining room, there was a tall, genteel woman with hair parted in the middle, head bent in sorrow and resignation of the inevitable. She props a waving little girl at the window, and a shawled, cocooned new baby plays with her fingers in a crib at her feet, while a uniformed young man with a rifle on his shoulders walks out the garden gate, looking back, smiling at his children's hands up in farewell. On the bottom is transcribed a mother's sacrifice. World War I artifacts brought across the murky oceans by my grandfather, who sustained a bayonet in his side. All that remains, and yet mothers are still at windows crying, and the wars rage on. So, that's my little treat for St. Patrick's Day. And I hope you enjoyed my little talk today, as brief as it is. And I hope you really enjoy St. Patrick's Day coming up. And I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.